So what happens when a hero actually achieves their lifelong dream? Is that just the end of the story, or is it the beginning of something way more complicated? Today, we're going to dive into the journey of Naruto Uzumaki, a story that, believe me, goes way beyond just becoming a hero.
And it all really kicks off with this one chilling question. It comes from an enemy who has just flattened an entire village. It's not just a taunt, it's a challenge, born from a vicious cycle of pain and revenge, and it demands an answer from anyone who claims they're fighting for peace.
For Naruto Uzumaki, a kid who was hated for pretty much his entire life, a question like this is deeply personal. He couldn't just punch his way out of this one. Nope, his answer had to be about staring hatred right in the face and finding some way, anyway, to finally break that cycle.
And that was his defiant response. I mean, it's a declaration of pure hope in a world that's pretty much drowning in cynicism. This single idea would end up being the engine for his entire life. And to really get why, we've got to go back to the very beginning.
Every journey has to start somewhere, right? For Naruto, it all began with a simple, incredibly powerful, and really personal dream. He would shout this from the rooftops, but, this wasn't just some kid's fantasy. See, as an orphan who was completely shunned by his village, becoming the Hokage, the leader of that village, was the only way he could even imagine getting the respect and the acknowledgement he was so desperate for.
It's one thing to want the title, to want the big hat in the fancy office. It is a completely different thing to actually earn it. And Naruto, well, he was about to face a test that would push his ideals and his power to the absolute breaking point.
This brings us to one of the most devastating moments in his story, the invasion of the Hidden Leaf Village by Pain. Not only is he the leader of the Akatsuki, he's also the man who killed Naruto's own master. The very village he dreamed of leading was being turned into nothing but dust and rubble.
His usual bag of tricks just wasn't going to cut it here, not even close. To have even a sliver of a chance, Naruto had to learn this ancient, super dangerous technique, the art of drawing an energy from nature itself to reach a completely new level of power.
Now, on paper, it sounds pretty straightforward, but for a guy as hyperactive as Naruto, that first step, sitting perfectly still, is basically impossible. And the balance part, that is crucial. If you take in too much nature energy, you don't just fail, you turn into a stone frog. Forever. No do-overs.
But this was never just about who could punch harder. It was a battle of ideas. Pain genuinely believed that the only way to get peace was through shared suffering. He thought that people would only stop fighting once they all experienced the same unimaginable level of pain together. Naruto, on the other hand, was clinging to the belief his master Jiraiya gave him, that true peace doesn't come from shared trauma, it comes from mutual understanding. So this fight was basically a choice: break the cycle of hate or make it even worse on a global scale.
And in the end, Naruto didn't just win the fight, he won over the very same people who had made him an outcast his whole life. He didn't just return as a victor, he came back as the hero of the Hidden Leaf. His dream was finally within reach.
So what happens when the kid nobody wanted who dreamed of being the leader actually gets the job? Well, as it turns out, the reality is a whole lot more complicated.
Yeah, the reality is a little different from the dream. That glorious inauguration ceremony, he nearly missed it because he was so exhausted. The universal respect he craved, his own son calls him "my stupid old man." And protecting the village, a lot of the time that just means being buried under a literal mountain of paperwork, to the point where he can't even make it home for his daughter's birthday.
And this really became the core struggle of his adult life. Naruto had saved the world, but he was losing his connection with his own son, Boruto. Boruto didn't see a legendary hero, he just saw a distant, work-obsessed dad who was never there.
All this tension just boils over when a new, world-ending threat shows up, forcing Naruto to really confront his duties not just as Hokage, but as a father. This is the new challenge, right? It's not about earning respect from strangers anymore. It's about bridging this huge gap with the one person who should respect him the most. And the answer, as it so often does, comes in the heat of battle. These new enemies, Momoshiki and Kinshiki Otsutsuki, are basically celestial beings. They look at planets and all the people on them as like fruit to be harvested for energy. And they've targeted Naruto specifically for the Nine-Tails beast sealed right inside him. The fight is totally different from anything he's faced. Momoshiki can absorb any ninjutsu you throw at him, which makes Naruto's signature moves pretty much useless. But And this is huge. Boruto has developed his own special move, a vanishing Rasengan that becomes invisible. And suddenly, the path to winning is crystal clear. Naruto can't land the final blow himself, but he can provide the power. He has to become the support for his son's unique talent.
In that final, crucial moment, Naruto just pours all of his own chakra into Boruto's tiny Rasengan, turning it into this massive, world-ending attack. And then he entrusts the whole thing to his son. It is a complete passing of the torch, a total transfer of trust and responsibility.
And that's the big shift. That's the whole thing. His victory isn't defined by his own power anymore, but by his ability to empower his son. He finally understands that being Hokage isn't just about protecting the village right now. It's about making sure the village has heroes for the future.
So, we kinda end where we began. For Naruto, achieving his dream wasn't the final page. It was the start of a new, and maybe even harder, journey. The journey of defining what his legacy is, not as an individual, but as a father and as a mentor. And that, just maybe, is the real meaning of peace.